Halo dan selamat datang kembali di Earth Optimism. Bersama saya, Yohanes Lamere, sedang lagi berjumpa dengan kalian semua dari Washington DC. Hari ini kita akan membahas tentang topik yang benar-benar penting bagi kita semua, yaitu bagaimana kita bisa menyelamatkan spesies baik hewan maupun tumbuhan. Apakah kalian pernah berpikir bahwa kita sebenarnya bisa menciptakan masa depan di mana hewan liar bisa hidup di ekosistem dan habitat mereka, dan mereka pun bisa ikut berkembang biak? Perubahan lingkungan menjadi ancaman yang sangat besar untuk kehidupan satwa marga satwa kita. Dan untuk menghindari punahnya makhluk hidup yang sudah hampir punah ini, merupakan sebuah tantangan yang sangat besar bagi kita semua. Tetapi kalian mungkin sangat tertarik untuk mendengar cerita dari ilmuwan dan teman-teman kita di seluruh penjuru dunia yang percaya bahwa kita bisa menciptakan dan mencapai masa depan yang lebih baik. Bagaimana caranya? Menyelamatkan spesies makhluk hidup dimulai dengan sebuah penelitian dasar dan tentu saja yang dapat diterapkan. Para ilmuwan sekarang sudah lebih memahami bagaimana kehidupan di ekosistem liar, apa saja yang dimakan oleh makhluk hidup liar ini, dan bagaimana mereka menyesuaikan diri dengan ekosistem mereka. Sebagaimana pertumbuhan dan perkembangan ilmu pengetahuan, sekarang kita lebih memahami misteri biologi yang ada di sekitar kita. Kemudian, kita bisa bekerja sama untuk mencari dengan solusi yang dapat langsung diaplikasikan untuk membantu menjaga dan melestarikan hewan-hewan langka ini. Kita bisa bahkan mengembalikan mereka di kehidupan liar mereka. Wow, kita bisa membawa mereka kembali ke ekosistem mereka? Tentu saja ya. Itu membuat saya lebih sangat optimistik. Mari kita mulai perjalanan kita hari ini di Panama, di mana kita akan bertemu dengan para ilmuwan yang menyelamatkan kehidupan katak. Setelah itu kita akan pergi ke Chad di Afrika. Selama 35 tahun, hewan satu ini yang disebut Oryx bertanduk pedang, dulunya masuk dalam kelompok hewan yang populasinya sangat banyak di savana. Namun sekarang mereka hampir punah. Apa sebenarnya yang terjadi? Dan mari kita lihat situasi mereka hari ini.
We are here in the Mamani Valley to do our very first captive bred frog releases. We've never done a captive release before, so the first time you ever do something is a very important step. And we're trying to learn how to put the Lamosa harlequin frog back in the wild.
Esta especie para mí tiene un significado especial porque conjuntamente con colaboradores nosotros describimos esta especie y nos parece que al ver esta especie que está en problemas a causa del hongo y que ha estado declinando en ciertas zonas del país.
We're releasing 90 frogs in the stream. 16 frogs have radio transmitters on them. It's only recently that these transmitters have been so small that we can fit them on these frogs. Be able to study where they go, how they interact with the environment is an incredible opportunity, and it's just research questions that need to be answered if we want to save these species.
Hey Roberto, on this big rock here. Be free, little guy. First time in real sunlight. Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. I love the way they walk. So elegant. This is major, and it's like the first release. I can't believe it's happening. It's amazing. It's so amazing. This is the goal we've been working towards for 8 years. It's time to start learning about this disease in the environment.
Teníamos que hacer algo y por eso es muy significativo lo que estamos haciendo hoy, de liberar ranas de esta especie, Atelopus limosus, ya que quisiéramos volverla a ver y que sea abundante en los lugares donde esta habita o habitado.
Scimitar horned oryx is a species that went extinct in North Africa in 1980. It was 18 years ago that the community got together and decided we were going to make something happen.
We're in the middle of a program to re-release them back into Chad, into their native habitat. Oryxes have bred well in zoos. They're well represented. So there was a good population to gather from for the released animals.
I can tell you when that box opened and the animals ran out, it was one of these few times in my career where I literally spontaneously just was overcome with joy. Using satellite technology, we're able to track them every day on my cell phone. I get a download twice a day that tells me exactly where all these animals are, which means our guys on the ground can go and look at reproductive success. We've had 2 offspring born in the wild. What that means is the animals are getting everything they need to survive and thrive.
There obviously is a biological reason of why we want to reintroduce these animals, but there also is a human aspect. You certainly can see the people's eyes light up. For the younger generation, they have never seen this animal.
The fact that it's back in the wild in their area, it's come full circle. I've worked with oryxes for over 30 years, and to be able to put them back in their native habitat is a dream come true.
I'm optimistic because we're in the process of reintroducing an animal that was formerly extinct in the wild to at least a portion of its range.
We're going to have to be on the ground helping the species survive and thrive for decades and decades to come.
It's not going to be easy, but somebody's got to do it.
Sekarang, mari kita lihat sebuah cagar alam di Amerika, di mana para ilmuwan Smithsonian mengumpulkan selfie dari berbagai hewan. Kamera jebakan ini digunakan oleh para ilmuwan untuk memantau pola hidup hewan yang mana sebelumnya susah sekali untuk dilakukan.
When you drive out here and you see these bison standing on those ridges, it is just the right thing. They belong in this landscape. This is an iconic species. I could not imagine this prairie without bison. My name is Hina Shamoon. I'm a conservation biologist with Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute. I work out in American Prairie Reserve trying to understand how bison are engineering this landscape.
We're experimenting on some GPS solar tags that are being fitted to the ear of many of the bison so that we can track the movements of as many animals as we can. These tags are originally designed for cattle, and we're adapting them for bison. One of the real benefits is that they're cheap. Under $50 a tag, we can put many on animals for about the same price as one GPS collar. We can look at collective movements of entire herds rather than one individual, which is important for bison because they're social animals and they move together.
For the last 3 months, we've been baiting bison into a catch pen, slowly getting them used to eating hay, having water available to them. They can come and go as they please. As the dates get closer to where we actually have to handle the bison, we close the gates, and at that point they're captured. This is when we also do other work like put ear tags on and disease testing. Our facility was designed to be as low stress as possible. Lots of big curves, no square corners, nowhere for bison to catch body parts on. This has them using their natural tendencies to move through the facility, so it makes it much easier on them. It takes a lot of people, and we couldn't do it without everyone that was here to help. Each day in a holding pen, we'll split off a group of 5 to 10 bison. They go through the hub. where they are moved forward one at a time. And then they are at the single chutes where the bison walk into. There's not a lot of room in there for them, so they can't injure themselves. We want to make sure they stay as calm as possible. We move them up to the squeeze chute. The squeeze chute is a hydraulic chute that captures the bison by putting pressure on its body and holds its head in place. This is where we put out GPS tags and take the disease samples. Once this is all done, the bison is let go and get them back with the herd as quickly as possible.
These tags are programmed to collect a position every hour. They transmit that data immediately to an antenna network. We've set up 3 antennas, so in near real time we can view them on our handheld map.
The GPS ear tag research project that we're partnering with Smithsonian on has the potential to move bison research forward. This is because it's a very low-cost way of getting data from bison. And it also has management implications. We can real-time see where these bison are on the landscape, and it can improve our reaction time to if there is something, whether a flood or a disaster. We know where they are, when they left, and we can go find them much easier if we need to.
Very exciting week this week. We've tagged 89 individuals. We took blood samples. We'll know the kinship, we'll know the interactions, the relationships between them. I am super excited. This is cutting edge science. This is the first time something like this has been done. It opens up a whole new world for us to understand how bison are engineering this landscape.
Sekarang, mari kita pergi ke Mongolia untuk mendengarkan cerita mengenai kuda liar.
Taki, as they're known here in Mongolia, were formerly widespread across Central Asia in steppe habitat. However, changing landscapes, increasing agriculture and livestock, hunting pressures drove them to extinction by the end of 1969. This park is here because of the Taki. This was founded for returning the Taki to the wild. The Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute has been working to develop science-based strategies to help strengthen and expand Taki populations, both here in the Hustai Nauru National Park as well as in the Kalamaile Nature Reserve in China. They were facing a lot of challenges, and they reached out to us to get involved in satellite tracking the horses, which is a great way to be able to learn quickly about their ecology, what their habitat needs are, how they're moving.
Hustai National Park is a hotspot for biodiversity in Mongolia. Taki population is growing. Now there are 330 horses. At the same time, their other wildlife also is increasing. For example, more than 800 red deer in the park, as well as 400 Mongolian gazelles. These are all large mammals, they coexist in the same area. So it's really important to know how the different species coexist in the same region at the same time all together. Hustai National Park staff are doing really good job in collecting long-term monitoring data. Understanding the movement ecology of different species is very important for conservation management in the future.
Намайг Цэндэ сэрэнгийн Санж Мөтөө гэдэг би энэ Хустай байгалийн зохицолборд газар байгаль орчны байцаагчаар ажилладаг. Чухал зүйл гэдэг юм бол бүгд л чухал талтай ер нь. Гэтэ хамгийн гол нь хамгаалт. хайлуулахын тус хамгаалалтаа газар хамгаалах, энд байгаа амьтан ургамлын одоо юунууд судалгаач нартай хамтран ажиллаж тэдэнд бас мэдээлэл солилцох судалгаанд нь оролцдог байгаа гол зорилго. Мэдээж судалгааны алба, хамгаалалтын алба хоёрыг аль нэгнгүйгээр төсөөлөх аргагүй.
The staff here in Hustai, they're interested in if there are actions they can take to expand the horses' use of the park. So our role here has been adding satellite tracking, learning more about how the horses are using this environment, and understanding why the horses are not using all of the protected area. Smithsonian and the Minnesota Zoo are working to track the horses. Senckenberg University is tracking the Mongolian gazelles and are planning soon to be tracking the red deer. Working together, we have a chance to really look at many key species in the same system, so a multi-species approach. Ultimately, we will go away. It's very important that people here are invested and have the capacity and the passion and inspiration to keep things going into the future. It's not that it's just about impacting and saving this species. It's about protecting this ecosystem and restoring the biodiversity of the system.
I'm so pleased to introduce Dr. Melissa Songer that we just saw in the video. She has agreed to join us for a few questions. Welcome, Dr. Songer. We just watched some of your work with the wild horses in Mongolia. Why is it important that we try to save species like the wild horses, and what challenges do we face?
One of the greatest challenges we face in the world today is an extinction crisis. We're losing species hundreds of times faster in the past. But what does that mean to lose just one species, like a wild horse, oryx, even a little frog that we may never lay eyes on in our lifetime? Why does that matter? When we lose a species, even a small species, it can have a cascading effect on the whole ecosystem and other species. So if you imagine that little rocket frog, frogs eat insects. When frog populations go down, number of insects goes up. And you think about what that's like when you're in a place with too many bugs. I don't know about you, but where I'm from, during mosquito season, I get eaten alive. And it can be really uncomfortable to be outside during certain times of the day. But not only that, mosquitoes can carry diseases. Also, if the frogs disappear, what happens to the predator species that eat that frog? They have less food, so their populations start to decline along with the frogs. Soon, the whole system's out of balance. It makes it unstable and causes us to lose other species, and ultimately even human health is affected, not just wildlife. Humans need healthy ecosystems too, for food, medicine, protection against erosion, climate change, and other forces in our environment. So a single species helps support biodiversity and the whole ecosystem. But saving a single species can be very challenging. Species are endangered for a reason, sometimes many reasons. Usually it's about human activities that reduce habitat for the animal, such as converting forests for crops or other development, increasing number of livestock using an area, increased hunting of a species. Whatever the reasons are, these usually don't go away. They're only getting worse. So to save a species, we need the scientific knowledge to know what habitat they need, food, water, space requirements they have. But not only that, we need to understand and address the threats. Now, places where endangered species still survive are often very remote. They don't have a lot of people or human impact, but the people who are there may depend on the same natural resources as the animal. So, for example, the oryx in northern Africa or the wild horses in Mongolia both depend on plants that are also eaten by livestock. So the people living near those sites depend on the livestock for their livelihood. So there can be competition for food between wildlife and livestock. So as scientists, we can understand what the species needs for survival, but we also need to understand how people are using that same space. And we need to work closely with people to bring them into the process to find solutions that are equitable for people and wildlife. And this is a complex process that's really critical to saving a species.
Now, we have 2 questions from students in Indonesia who are participating in the U.S. Embassy's English Access Program. Let's listen.
Hello, my name is Farhan Hussein and I am from Senior High School of 4 Serang City. And I am the participant of U.S. Embassy's English Access Micro-Scholarship Program. And I would like to know, are you optimistic about the futures of species conservation? Thank you very much.
I'm absolutely optimistic about the future of species conservation for many reasons. We've just watched so many fantastic examples of why we should be optimistic. First, technology. We've had many advances in technologies needed for saving species. This includes DNA analysis to assess health and diversity of a population, study and testing for diseases that can affect people and wildlife, lead to drastic declines in their populations. Satellite tracking technology is very important, especially for returning extinct species to the wild. It allows us to follow every move of the animals we release, and that helps us to better understand their ecology, their reproduction, behavior, how they use their ecosystem. And then we can make changes to the management to give them the best possible chance for survival. And in the past, we've had only heavy and transmitters that don't last very long. They're not very accurate, but through huge advancements in batteries, communication technologies, we're on our way towards being able to track any species anywhere throughout its lifetime. We've also had major advances in remote monitoring with satellites that can detect very small details of the Earth's surface at a global scale. Other remote monitoring, we saw a video about the infrared cameras, using them to study bison and other wildlife in American prairies. And also drones and helikites that allow us to see even more about animals in the wild. So all the advances in technology are very exciting and promising. In addition, we have people. We've seen dedicated scientists, rangers, local people who work to protect species and biodiversity. So many people working together to save species. That's what really makes a difference between saving and losing a species.
Hi, my name is Sifan Riza from Madrasah Alia Wahid Hashim Balung Jember, and I'm the participant of U.S. Embassy's English Access Micro Scholarship Program. I have a question for you. My question is, what actions can people take to help save species? Thank you.
Well, the great news is that there are actions that anyone can take every day to save species. We don't have to be scientists or working in the field on an endangered species. Choices that we make every day can positively or negatively impact endangered animals. For example, I believe in your next segment, you're going to be watching a story about baby orangutans, which are one of the cutest species in the world. That's my scientific opinion. But orangutans and other species are found only in rainforests in Indonesia and Malaysia. And these forests are being rapidly converted for oil palm plantations. And once they're converted, they can no longer support orangutans or tigers or elephants, many of the wild species that depend on that rainforest. The palm oil that's grown in these plantations is used in many things, all kinds of food, cookies, crackers, noodles, cooking oil, vitamins, soap, detergent, lotions. And as a result, the high demand of palm oil, rainforests are disappearing rapidly. But as consumers, we can make choices. We can reduce the amount of palm oil we're using. We can look for products that have palm oil that's been grown sustainably, that aren't destroying rainforests. How we choose to spend our money can make a difference. And if you think about money as your vote, you can either vote for a product that has something that impacts endangered animals and their habitat, or you can vote for something that's produced responsibly and sustainably. You can also think about using other resources wisely, whether it's water, paper, especially plastics. Reducing those uses can reduce the negative impacts on our environment. We can also choose more sustainable ways of travel, walking, riding bikes, using public transport instead of individual vehicles. These actions can reduce gases, which contribute to climate change. And then finally, we can speak out, learn about the species you care about and how they're threatened, talk to others about it. Let companies know if they're doing something that's hurting endangered species in their habitat, and let them know that you don't like that. as well as policy and decision makers. Let them know about your concerns and that you're paying attention and want to see them as supporting endangered species in the environment. So what I see happening now is so many people become inspired to make a difference. And that makes me hopeful and optimistic about the future of species conservation and our world.
Well, Dr. Sanger, you have made me more optimistic about the future of species survival and given me some good ideas of how I can make a difference. Thank you for joining us today. Saya berharap kalian semua belajar banyak hari ini ya. Kelihatannya kita semua punya peran penting dalam melestarikan kehidupan makhluk hidup langka di masa depan. Jika kalian ingin lebih tahu banyak, silakan pergi ke website earthoptimism.se.edu dan sampai jumpa di episode selanjutnya.